Hello friends, welcome to Ecoholics YouTube channel. My name is Avinash Agarwal and in this video I'll be discussing with you economics current affairs for 10th October 2024. I've selected two important articles from the Mint newspaper. First article speaks about India's semiconductor ecosystem in India. So what is it that we are hoping to get out of it? What is it that we are investing on? क्या प्रकार के चिप्स को हम प्रोड्यूस करेंगे? Will we be making advanced chips? Will we be making legacy chips? Will we be making mature chips? So this is a very beautiful discussion. हमने ये डिस्कशन थोड़ा सा पहले भी एक बार करा है, राइट बट आज जो हम ये डिस्कशन करने वाले हैं दिस इज गोइंग टू बी रियली रियली फैंटास्टिक, जो कि आपको बहुत अच्छी इंसाइट, बहुत फोकस्ड इंसाइट प्रोवाइड करेगा कि एग्जैक्टली इंडिया की सेमीकंडक्टर स्ट्रेटेजी है क्या. सो दैट्स व्हाट द फर्स्ट आर्टिकल इज अबाउट. द सेकेंड आर्टिकल इज इवन मोर ब्यूटिफुल, राइट. इट स्पीक्स अबाउट द डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन of the net value added, right, by a firm in the form of let's say wages on the one hand and profit on the other hand, right. मतलब ये है कि अगर आप फर्म हो, आप फैक्ट्री हो, राइट, एंड आपके पास लेट्स से you are generating let us say a surplus, right. So you're doing, let's say, I mean, you buy raw material for 100 rupees and let's say you sell it for 200 rupees, okay. So जो आपने ये 100 rupees value addition करा है, ये 100 रुपीज वैल्यू एडिशन कैसे डिवाइड हो रहा है बिटवीन वेरियस फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन, राइट. हाउ इज दिस वैल्यू एडेड, राइट. लेट्स से यू परचेज रॉ मटेरियल एट 100 एंड सोल्ड इट एट 200, सो द वैल्यू एडिशन इज लेट्स से 100. so how is this 100 rupees getting divided amongst various factors of production? What is labor getting in the form of let's say wages? What is capital getting in the form of let's say, or what is capital or what is entrepreneur getting in the form of profit, right. सो ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इट्स वेरी ब्यूटीफुल, वेरी सिंपल आर्टिकल. आप डरना मत, राइट. मैंने थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेट तरीके से बताया है स्टार्टिंग के अंदर. आप डरना मत, बहुत अच्छे आर्टिकल्स हैं. लेट मी जस्ट स्टार्ट विद द डिस्कशन. लेट मी एक्सप्लेन एवरीथिंग टू यू, राइट. एंड आई एम रिक्वेस्टिंग यू अगेन, इफ यू वांट मी टू डिस्कस सर्टेन आर्टिकल्स जो कि आपने सिलेक्ट करे हैं, विच आर कॉम्प्लेक्स आर्टिकल्स, लेंदी आर्टिकल्स, इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स, देन प्लीज फील फ्री टू शेयर द लिंक in the comment section, and you can also mail it to Ecoholics and I will love to take up your articles also, right. So yeah, so India जो है नए incentives को roll out करने वाला है to develop semiconductor industries, ठीक है. At least 4 chip makers दुनिया के जो है अब इंडिया में आने वाले हैं, and in my simple language factories लगाएंगे for producing semiconductor chips. Those factories are called fabrications or fabs, ठीक है. and जो फैक्ट्रीज लगेंगे या जो फैब्स लगेंगे इंडिया के अंदर, मोस्ट ऑफ दोज फैब्स या वी आर लाइकली टू प्रोड्यूस लेगेसी चिप्स, नॉट एडवांस्ड चिप्स, लेगेसी चिप्स. सो हमारा फोकस राइट नाउ इज नॉट ऑन प्रोड्यूसिंग एडवांस्ड चिप्स, अवर फोकस इज ऑन प्रोड्यूसिंग मेच्योर चिप्स एंड अवर फोकस इज ऑन प्रोड्यूसिंग लेगेसी चिप्स. नाउ लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड दीज 3 वर्ड्स, दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सो देखिए, टेक्नोलॉजी इवॉल्व हो रही है, राइट. एवरीथिंग इज बिकमिंग थिनर एंड स्लिमर एंड स्मॉलर, राइट. All your electronic gadgets, everything is becoming thinner, smaller, lighter. So how is that happening? So one critical development जो कि हर चीज को छोटा पतला बनाने में हेल्प कर रही है, that is your evolving semiconductor technology, right. अब आपका जो चिप है उसका जो साइज है इन नैनोमीटर्स, वो बताता है कि वो चिप कितना एडवांस्ड है. तो जितना छोटा साइज है उतना वो चिप एडवांस्ड है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल Apple iPhones, Google Pixel. So these electronic devices, these consumer gadgets, they are using 3 nanometer chips, which are very small. I am sure you are understanding. And these chips are very advanced and they are produced using cutting edge technology. You know, absolutely the best. But when you look at applications in automotive industry, applications in aerospace industry, applications in defense industry, applications in power industry, तो यहाँ पर we are still using chips of size 100 nanometer or above. So on the one hand you have 3 nanometer chips, on the other you have 100 and above nanometer chips. These are latest, these are very advanced, these are your legacy chips. These are your legacy chips, right? So you need to understand this thing over here, right, that these chips 100 nanometers or above, they are also important today, they are also being used today, they are not very expensive to produce, they can be mass produced. And India का जो focus है is going to be on this part of the spectrum, right? India will be focusing on this part of the spectrum, and India will initially not be focusing on this part of the spectrum. That is what you need to understand, right? अब जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो टाटा पीएसएमसी का जो चिप फैब डेवलप हो रहा है, सो दे आर प्लानिंग टू मेक 28 नैनोमीटर्स टू 90 नैनोमीटर्स. दैट इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से, दैट यहां से स्टार्ट करें तो 28 नैनोमीटर्स से लेकर यहां तक 90 nanometers, right? So we are going to focus, at least the Tatas are going to focus, and by the way, Ratan Tata has passed away last night, a great soul that he is, rest in peace, right? So 28 nanometers to 90 nanometers की जो chip है, right? So these chips are called mature modes, right? They are neither too old, they give decent performance, they do less power consumption, right? They have wide industrial use, right? So we are going to produce these chips in your Tata PSMC chip fab. We can also produce legacy chips, right? And इसकी वजह से क्या होगा कि we don't need to import at least these chip varieties. अभी क्या हो रहा है कि इंडिया के अंदर चाहे एडवांस्ड हो, चाहे लेगेसी हो, चाहे मेच्योर हो, कोई भी हो, we are heavily import dependent. We are heavily import dependent. Now once we start producing our own mature and legacy chips, at least उसका import बंद हो जाएगा, and we will be generating significant amounts of domestic revenue in terms of taxes, in terms of, you know, creating jobs and therefore income taxes, creating profit and therefore corporate taxes, creating products in India and therefore GST, right? Creating jobs in our country, right? So काफी सारे फायदे हमारे को मिल जाएंगे, right? अगर आप प्रेजेंट की बात करो, so there is one semiconductor laboratory in Mohali, so वो 180 nanometers and older chips produce कर रहा है, राइट? SCL सेमीकंडक्टर लेबोरेटरी, एंड ये 180 नैनोमीटर्स एंड ओल्डर चिप्स जो है, इनको हम डिफेंस, स्पेस, रिसर्च एक्सेट्रा के अंदर यूज करते हैं. जहां तक बात रही एडवांस चिप मेकिंग की, सो ताइवान इज द हब. ताइवान TSMC करके एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, वहां पर कंपनी है. That's the most important firm globally, advanced chip making, and we are 20 years behind when it comes to advanced chip making. If we start developing the ecosystem today, if we start spending today, if we start doing R&D today, if we start doing skill development today, if we start investing today, if we start creating an ecosystem today, maybe in the next 20 years we may be able to produce the most advanced chips in India. But that progress or that journey needs to start somewhere, and that is where India is starting its journey, right? So ये mature and legacy chips को produce करके we are planning to add billions in value to industries, in the sense that बहुत सारा gross value addition, net value addition will happen in India, right? These chips are important because 50% of the cost of making consumer gadgets इस chips का है, right? ये जो older generation chips है, they are right for us because they are not too costly, they are not too complex, and they need lower subsidy support, right? And that is what we are trying to do. In trying to go for these legacy and mature chips, the good side is that you have to start somewhere, right? So this is the logical place to start. There is no harm in that. This is the logical place to start. The unhelpful part is that geopolitical significance is lying in producing advanced chips. We will not have that geopolitical significance on day zero, right? A lot of countries, a lot of companies, they want to diversify the supply chain of cutting edge chips for consumer electronics. They want to diversify the supply chain. Why? Because as of now, the supply chain is very, very concentrated in Taiwan. Taiwan is very close to China, and China can be very unpredictable when it comes to their policies towards Taiwan, right? So we need to diversify the supply chains away from China. India can play a role, but India needs to first develop an ecosystem to be able to play a meaningful role in diversifying supply chains away from Taiwan towards, let us say, other countries. So I hope with this discussion you are able to appreciate this particular question over here, that discuss the significance of legacy chips in India's semiconductor strategy, potential benefits and challenges of developing domestic ecosystem for both legacy and advanced chip manufacturing, right? So please try to answer this question. I'm sure that, I hope that you have learned something new and you are really appreciating what you have learned. Now let us move ahead to my second article. It's a very beautiful article. So when I was doing my MBA in IIM Calcutta, we had Professor Mrityunjay Mohanty come in, and he used to discuss this ratio, wage to profit ratio, right? And this is a very important ratio, I understood in his classes, wage to profit ratio tells you, right, what's happening, right, in the sense that, see, majority of your population is going to be dependent on wages, a minority of your population is going to be dependent on profits. If your wage to profit ratio is, let's say, healthy, forget about increasing, it's healthy, right, then a lot of people will have money to spend. They will have the ability to take care of the standard of living. They will have the ability to create consumer demand, etc., etc. But if this wage to profit ratio starts declining, then that is a sign that this majority is not going to be very strong. This minority is going to get richer and richer, right? Inequality will go up, consumer demand will weaken, right? And ultimately, there will be a lot of social tension, there will be a lot of stress in the fabric of our society. This is my interpretation of this wage to profit ratio, right? It's a very important ratio, and hardly anybody speaks about it in India. Indian textbooks don't speak about it much. So that's why when Professor Mohanty spoke about wage to profit ratio in IIM Calcutta, I was genuinely, genuinely interested in this particular topic. And it's a good surprise that I'm talking about this wage to profit ratio thanks to this article in Mint newspaper, right? So you see what is happening over here. Wages is for those who are working on the shop floor. Emoluments is for those who are working in the managerial cadre, in the administrative cadre. So wages and emoluments is basically, when I say wages, I'm talking about both wages and emoluments. मैं वापस से बताना चाहता हूँ, wages is for those जो blue collar workers है, shop floor workers है, that's wages. Emoluments is for those who are white collar workers, managerial cadre, administrative cadre type workers. ठीक है. So wages and emoluments together को मैं wages कह रहा हूँ. अब आप देखिए यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है. 2009, and this is government's data, by the way. This is not some researcher का data that you don't want to believe. ठीक है. वेजेस एंड एमोल्यूमेंट्स आप यहां पर देखिए, दोनों मिलकर प्रॉफिट से काफी ज्यादा है. यहां आते आते आप देखिए, वेजेस एंड एमोल्यूमेंट्स दोनों मिलकर प्रॉफिट्स को जस्ट टच कर पा रहे हैं, राइट. यानी कि जो प्रॉफिट का शेयर है, जो कि मैंने आपको बोला कि अगर लेट्स से कोई फर्म है, दे आर परचेसिंग रॉ मटेरियल फॉर ₹100 एंड दे आर सेलिंग फिनिश गुड फॉर लेट्स से ₹200, राइट. तो ये जो ₹100 का जो वैल्यू एडिशन करा है, so this will be distributed amongst factors of production. So households will get something, right? Firm will, or entrepreneur will get something in the form of profit. Land owner will get something in the form of rent, and capital ka owner will get something in the form of interest. So for the time being, forget about interest, forget about rent. Let's forget about interest, let's forget about rent. Let's look at what households are getting. Let's look at what the entrepreneur is getting in the form of profit, right? So as you can see over here very clearly, right, as you can see over here very clearly, that the share of profit in the gross value added is increasing, right, and the share of wages in this ₹100 in the net value added has been declining, right. That's unmistakable, right. So if I have to put some numbers over here just for the heck of it, right, if I have to put some numbers over here, so 40 plus 20 is 60, right. Then over here this is 35 plus, let's say, 17. So this is 35 plus 17 is how much? 52, right. Then this looks to be 32 plus 15. 32 plus 15 looks to be around 47, right. And then this looks to be around 34 plus 15. 34 plus 15 is this is looking up to be around 49, right. So you can see that we have come from 60 to close to 47, 49 when it comes to the share of wages, right, in the net value added. So share of wages in net value added has clearly declined. And if you look at the share of profit, close to 39 has increased to around, let's say, 54 over here. This is the problem. Whether it's a problem, and the good part is that what I just said, that this is a problem, this article doesn't say that this is a problem. That is the best part about this article. This article teaches you from a very theoretical standpoint that whether this is a problem or not, and problem hai to kya problem hai, matlab if at all there is a problem, right. It is a very beautiful article in that sense. So देखिए, हम बात कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी की. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हाट हैज बीन हैपनिंग सिंस पैंडेमिक, राइट. एंड क्वेश्चन ये है कि हैज द इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी आफ्टर पैंडेमिक बीन डोमिनेटेड बाय प्रॉफिट्स रादर देन वेजेस? दैट इज द क्वेश्चन दैट वी आर ट्राइंग टू आंसर, कि क्या इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी आफ्टर पैंडेमिक प्रॉफिट्स डोमिनेटेड है, प्रॉफिट ड्रिवन है, या फिर वेजेस इंक्रीज हो रहे हैं, right? This is very important. As I said that the data is being pulled out of periodic labor force survey, right? इस particular discussion के लिए the author is looking at only the earning of workers in rural as well as urban areas with regular wages or salaries. We are not looking at casually employed. We are not looking at self-employed. We are not looking at these two categories. We are looking at only this category. Why? इसका justification ये है कि those who are having formal jobs, they are the ones who are most likely to have some kind of discretionary income to spend, right? And they are the ones who are most likely to drive the consumer demand up, right? They are the ones because जिनकी casual employment है, जो self employed है, जिनकी income ही strong नहीं है, वो क्या ही contribute करने वाले हैं? वो obviously contribute करते हैं, but let's focus on this particular category of workers who are having formal jobs, right? अब ये जो formal jobs वाले लोग हैं, इनकी as you can see nominal wages has been increasing, but this nominal wages has been increasing at around 5.5%, right? This nominal wage has been increasing at around 5.5%, and this is almost same as or a little lower than the inflation rate in India in this time period. This is almost same as or a little lower than the inflation rate in India. So you can probably appreciate कि इंडिया के अंदर जो nominal wages है, they have barely kept pace with the inflation. यानी कि typically what happens is that let's say that if inflation is 5%, यानी कि last year जो चीज 100 rupees cost कर रही थी, अब वो अगर 105 rupees cost कर रही है, और लास्ट ईयर मेरी वेज अगर 100 रुपीज थी और इस ईयर अगर मेरी वेज 103 रुपीज है, यानी कि मैं इस सामान को अब नहीं खरीद सकता हूँ. अगर मेरी वेज 104 रुपीज है, यानी कि मैं इस सामान को नहीं खरीद सकता हूँ. अगर मेरी वेज 105 रुपीज है तो मैं बेयरली इस सामान को खरीद सकता हूँ. अगर मेरी वेज 106 रुपीज है तो मैं इस सामान को खरीद सकता हूँ और कुछ और खरीदने की कोशिश भी कर सकता हूँ, राइट? सो इट इज एक्सट्रीमली इंपॉर्टेंट टू एंश्योर कि नॉमिनल वेजेस की जो ग्रोथ है, it is at least as fast as inflation की growth or faster than inflation की growth. I hope that you are understanding this. I hope that you are understanding this very simple logic that जो nominal wages की growth है, it has to be at least as fast as the growth of inflation, or it needs to be better still if it needs to be faster than the growth of inflation, right? So as I am explaining to you that nominal wages have grown by around 5.4%, which is barely keeping pace with the rate of inflation growth, right? That is what the problem, again, that is what is happening in India, right? So another data that has been used in this particular discussion is coming from the annual survey of industries. So the new annual survey of industries वो ये बताता है कि जो net value added है, what is net value added, कि मैंने 100 रुपए का रॉ मटेरियल खरीदा, प्रोसेसिंग करी और उसको 200 रुपीज के फिनिश गुड में बेच दिया. सो जो नेट वैल्यू एडेड है दैट इज लेट्स से 100 रुपीज, राइट? सो ये जो नेट वैल्यू एडेड है, हाउ इज दिस बीइंग डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड? लेबरर्स को कितना मिल रहा है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ वेजेस, एंटरप्रेन्योर को कितना मिल रहा है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ प्रॉफिट, राइट? सो शेयर ऑफ लेबर इन नेट वैल्यू एडेड in the organized factory sector, it has been slipping. I will repeat myself, and this is obviously the most important statement of this particular article, that the share of labor in net value added in the organized factory sector has been slipping. So ये जो नया survey of industries है, it is focusing on organized industries, right? ये जो नया survey of industries है, it collects data from all those units which are registered under the Factories Act of 1948. It collects data from all the factories जहां पर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी यूज होती है और 10 वर्कर्स काम करते हैं, या फिर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं यूज होती है जहां पर 20 वर्कर्स काम करते हैं. यानी कि दिस पर्टिकुलर सर्वे इज फोकसिंग ऑन ऑल लार्ज फैक्ट्रीज इन इंडिया, लार्ज बाय आवर स्टैंडर्ड्स, राइट? सो व्हाट इज द टेक अवे? द टेक अवे इज दैट वेज शेयर इन net value added, which I showed you over here, right? Wage ka share in net value added, which was 60% over here, has declined to 49%. So that is what is being said over here, right? That is what is being said over here, that the wage ka share in NVA is lower than what it was before the pandemic. So wages and emoluments जो है वो workers as well as जो managerial administrative employees है उनके बारे में बात कर रहा है, right? And we have seen over here, right? We have seen over here, I'm going back and forth again and again to just help you understand that emolument ka share over here is, let us say 39%, has increased to around 53 or 54% over here, right? So the idea over here that you need to understand is that you have a higher share of profit in the net value added. यानी कि जो पोस्ट कोविड रिकवरी है, यानी कि जो पोस्ट कोविड रिकवरी है, इट इज बीइंग लेड बाय प्रॉफिट रादर देन बाय वेजेस, इट इज बीइंग लेड बाय प्रॉफिट रादर देन बाय वेजेस, राइट. सो देयर इज क्लियर एंड कंपेलिंग एविडेंस दैट हमारी जो इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ है वो प्रॉफिट ड्रिवन है रादर देन वेज ड्रिवन है, राइट. Now you know this two sector model of any economy, right? In a two sector model there is households on the one hand and firms on the other hand. So firms pay households wages, right? And households spend that money on what firms have produced, right? In a two sector model of economy without any other sector and without any other leakage, दिस इज व्हाट द रिलेशनशिप इज. आई एम श्योर आपको मालूम होगा, आपने शायद एनसीईआरटी में पढ़ा है, नहीं पढ़ा है तो मैं आपको बता रहा हूं कि लेट्स अज्यूम दैट देयर आर ओनली टू सेक्टर्स इन एन इकोनॉमी, हाउसहोल्ड्स एंड फर्म्स. Households are supplying, let's say, factors of production to the firms, right? So households are supplying factors of production to the firms. Firms are producing goods and services and selling them to the households. So factors of production के बदले में households get, let's say, wages, right? They are supplying labor, so they are getting wages. Okay, and using those wages, households spend and purchase goods and services. ठीक है. So wages का एक दो बहुत important role है. Wages, they help households earn the income they need to buy stuff, and wages, they are a cost for the firms. यानी कि wages will determine the level of consumer spending, because if I earn, I will spend. If I don't earn, I will not spend. Wages will determine what is the level of inflation in the economy. Why? Because if wages increase, the cost of production will increase. If the cost of production will increase, selling price can increase. If selling price will increase, then inflation can increase, right? So this is what the problem over here is. Not, again, this is not a problem, but this is what the conundrum is. This is what the puzzle is. That if we increase the wages too much, we can hope to have an increase in consumer spending, but we can also have inflation. If we don't increase the wages too much, we can hope to control the inflation, but we are risking consumer spending. And that is what the idea is, and this is the best part of the article now. This is the best part of the article. I rarely compliment an article so much, but I have loved this article so much. So neither profit-led nor wage-led growth is good or bad by itself. Neither profit-led nor wage-led growth is good or bad by itself. कोई भी चीज अच्छी बुरी नहीं है. अगर higher share of wages है, if there is a higher share of wages in the net value added, so that can be converted into demand, right? And that can be converted into production, and that is very helpful if you have excess capacity in factories. यानी कि अगर आपकी फैक्ट्री का capacity utilization पूरा नहीं हुआ है, you have spare capacity available, there is excess demand that is getting created because of higher wages that is getting paid, right? So that will lead to increase in production and increase in GDP, which is a good thing. So if you have spare capacity and if you then develop excess demand through higher wages, then production will increase, right? But if you don't have spare capacity, and in this scenario, if you create excess demand by paying higher wages, you will create high levels of inflation, which can be problematic. This is what this particular line is saying. Right, that what is it saying? That a higher share of wages can help if you have excess capacity, but if you don't have excess capacity, then it can lead to inflation. Similarly, if you have, let us say, decent amounts of profits, right, then, and if there is good capacity utilization, right, and there is, let's say, strong demand in place, then industrialists or business persons or entrepreneurs can use the profit to undertake new investment, which will eventually lead to increase in production, right? So if you have high profits, good capacity utilization, strong demand, and therefore good investment, then that will create the base for further increase in production. But if you are using your profits not for investment, you are using your profits not for investments, but for reducing your liabilities, paying off your loans, but for investing it in the stock market, then that's not very helpful for the economy. And in India, what is happening right now is, and that is the conclusion of this article, in India what is happening right now is that जो भी net value added है, उसके अंदर we have seen that the share of wages has gone down, wages and employment has gone down, share of profit has gone up. इसकी वजह से what has happened is that consumer demand is weakening in India, सो यू अंडरस्टैंड कंज्यूमर डिमांड वीकन होगी तो डिमांड वीक होएगी तो प्रोडक्शन वीक होएगा, तो आपको मालूम है आगे क्या होगा. एंड ये जो प्रॉफिट्स इंक्रीज हुए हैं, दैट हैज नॉट रिजल्टेड इनटू इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, that has not resulted into investments, and as a result of which what has happened is that हमारी इकोनॉमी को जो हम बोलते हैं C प्लस आई प्लस जी प्लस एन एक्स, तो हमारा C भी कमजोर है. एज अ सोर्स ऑफ डिमांड, कंजम्पशन एक्सपेंडिचर इज ऑल्सो नॉट वेरी हेल्पफुल, एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट एक्सपेंडिचर भी कमजोर है. सो इन्वेस्टमेंट डिमांड इज ऑल्सो नॉट वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग, राइट? एंड दैट इज द सिचुएशन इन इंडिया राइट नाउ. I hope that you have appreciated this tremendously beautiful article which I have tried to explain to you. All credit to the author who has written this article, right? No credit to me, by the way. I don't want. I just want you to understand and appreciate. So yeah, with this we'll bring the session to an end. We'll meet you tomorrow again. New set of articles, new discussion. Until then, thank you so much. All the best and Jai Hind to all of you. Bye bye.